Well, we're back out at my playground, and you can see I've got my 52M in my pole barn. Remember about a year and a half ago, I had concrete poured in here, which is making it really nice for a place to work because my shop is always too crowded. But I've got a project for this M that I'd like to do, maybe even a couple projects, but the first and foremost is I'd like to put power steering on this. So 3 or 4 years ago, I did do some upgrades on this. I put live hydraulic power on it with this pump here, and I converted it from 6 volt to 12 volts. I have a 12 volt alternator on it now. And this one I bought probably 30 years ago, and it didn't have this 3-point, but I put that on at the same time that I did conversion of my live power and my 12 volt system. And what I really like about this is that it has dual action cylinders, so it not only picks up like most 3-points do, but it also has a down pressure, because I run a post hole auger with it, and this old hard dry ground out here, that makes all the difference on drill and fence post holes. So I did all these conversions out here in this pole barn, but while it was still dirt. And it's not the best time to mechanic in the dirt. Maybe it's not as bad as out in the grass, because when you drop a nut or a bolt, you can't hardly find it in the grass. So the dirt was better, but I really am appreciating this concrete floor. Well, I have already pulled the top hood. I took the muffler off. I took the front shroud off around the radiator, so it should make it a little easier getting to everything. So I had looked years ago when I did my other modifications for a power steering system for these. And I was buying my parts through Steiner Tractor, and they're a great outfit. But I couldn't find something that was kind of a plug and play. Steiner told me, well, you gotta kind of fabricate your own stuff. So I put it on the back burner. Well, here, maybe a month ago, I was just kind of bouncing around, and I ran across a system by Char Lynn, and probably you are all familiar with it. And it came off of an M, and it said it fits underneath the hood, and it's ready just to bolt back on. And so I'm going to see if I can't get this figured out, try to make it work. So this is the pump as it came. It's been repainted, so it's really cleaned up nicely. And this bracket here, I think, is what bolts to the engine itself. And then this bolts to that bracket. Never done this before. I have watched a couple videos on it, and hopefully I can make it work. And it also came with the gearbox that goes in the steering shaft system and the hydraulic hoses as well. I was looking at it briefly, and I took this bracket off, and I think I found the place that it's supposed to bolt to. So it looks to me from this configuration that it goes from this bolt, and I'm assuming this is where maybe the thermostat is at, and to this manifold bolt here. Looks like that's where that needs to go, right there. And then the pump will bolt to this. So I'll get that put on, I think. I did have a little coolant seep here, and I loosened up this bolt. But hopefully it's not too serious. Got her snugged back up again, but I think this is where that bracket goes. So if I'm seeing this correctly, this should mount to that framework right here. Maybe about so. It says it's supposed to fit under the top hood, and it looks like maybe it just might. So I'll get that bolted up. So part of the challenge is this loader. I've got a do-all loader on here. So it's kind of a jungle gym to get in here. I don't see how I could get a camera in here and let you see what I'm doing. I can't hardly see what I'm doing myself. I don't know how tight these should get, so I think I'll just put them snug and not super tight. These have got some elongated slots on them. It looks like maybe it's adjustable, maybe it's to help tension that belt. So I won't get too aggressive here. It didn't come with a belt because there's so many variables on whether it was an original generator or if it's been converted to 12 volt like mine is, whether it had live power or not. All those factors kind of enter in, so I'll have to figure out the belt when I get a little closer to that. So that gets us in the ballpark where it's in place anyway. So it's still adjustable, but I think that's going to be where it goes. So this is the belt to my alternator. I think you can kind of see it on the other side. It almost looks like this whole pump assembly needs to go back maybe about a ½ inch to get these pulleys to line up with that belt. I don't know if maybe I have to shim this back just a bit. To me, these pulleys don't quite line up the way it sits right there. So I'm not sure if this is kosher or not, but I pulled the pulley off here, got a woodruff key there. And this bracket here has got a nut in between it and the housing, which that would give me 3/8 of an inch. If I were to take these nuts off and transfer this bracket against the housing of the pump, it would move this pump back that 3/8 of an inch. And I wonder if that wouldn't help me line that up. Well, I got this first stud pulled out. And you can see how it's got a short side of threads and a long side. It had the long side out because it was double nutted. But I wonder if I go back the other direction, if I moved that bracket in, I was wondering if these nuts would interfere. But I think I can maybe put it there and still have enough for a nut there. So I got my studs turned around. I don't know why that won't work. That in effect is going to move this whole pump forward into this bracket. Well, we're back together. I see this one stud doesn't have this extra length in the housing, so it sticks out a little bit. I don't know why that won't work. Got my pulley back on. Stick it back in and see if it lines up a little better. So I have my pump mounted up, and you can see the pulley over here. I think I have it in line with this. The factor is it has to clear this radiator thermostat housing. And I think it's just going to clear that. Had to take off the radiator hose, and as it sets, it's bumping up against it just a little bit. But I think I can maybe push this back maybe about just that much to make it clear this reservoir on the pump. I do have an assortment of different belts. I think if I put that on there and where that's going to sit from pulley to pulley, I think that's just going to clear this housing here. So I went to town and got me a new belt, and I got it installed, and that's going to work. By the time I push this radiator back about 1/4 of an inch, this little L bracket here that must have mounted to something is going to clear that belt. I've had this tractor for 30 years, and that's never been mounted to anything. Maybe some of you know where it's supposed to go to. But all these years, it's this radiator hose that has held that in position. And that's probably what it's going to do again for a while. So in order to get this power steering and alternator belt on, I had to take off the fan belt. And if you play with these old Farmalls, you know they aren't the easiest to put on and off. You kind of have to put it in the groove on the bottom crankshaft pulley And then I put a pipe wrench on this shaft out here that maybe was intended for the hand crank, but I just turned that slowly by hand and just worked this right back on that pulley. And then you tighten up the outside edge of this pulley here and you bring it together, and y'all Farmall people, y'all know how all that works. So this is another angle of how close this reservoir is to my radiator. I'm going to pull it back about that 1/4 inch, and that should give us enough clearance so the two of them don't rub on each other. Well, the manual says to tighten this up to where there is 3/4 to 1 inch deflection. And I'm kind of a guess, but maybe 3/4 of an inch there. When I turn the fan belt, it is pretty stiff. A time or two it actually wants to turn the crankcase, so maybe that's as tight as I need to go. Seems loose, but that's what the manual says. Well, I brought my grill, the radiator cowling cover, front grill assembly, to the shop. It has been beat up since the day one that I got it. And for Farmall, they shouldn't be painted white, they should be all red. But I would like to see if I can't straighten this out a little bit. It's pretty hammered. Imagine there was probably some type of a screen here. It's been gone forever. There's been a screen put inside, kind of keeps most of the hay and chaff out of there. But I'm going to see if I can straighten this out a little bit. Well, I've been playing with this a little while. I have it straightened out a lot better. It may not be perfect. I did a little tweaking with some heat, had to do a little spot welding. Obviously I ran it through the sandblaster. I think I'll squirt a little paint on it. Go put it back on. Well, that drive motor is going to sit right in here. I need to take these gauges out because this framework is with the drive motor. This is my temperature and oil pressure, so I need to take these gauges out first. And I also need to take this throttle linkage off. This goes through this bracket as well. And this U-joint has to come off the steering wheel shaft. And it looks like this locking collar has to get moved back because this whole steering shaft needs to pull forward. I took a little lubrication here and up on the collar closer to the steering wheel, and I finally let loose. From what I understand, the front portion of the steering shaft needs to come out through a worm gear here, and I've been trying to get this off and haven't succeeded yet. I have a 3/4 inch drive ratchet set and I couldn't break it with that, so I brought out my impact and I'm going to see if I can get this freed up. Not much success yet. There we go. Oh, that was in there tight. I bet that hasn't been off since 1952. So it's been said this is supposed to just screw right out of there. By golly, it looks like a wheel. There's a bearing here. Grease looks fairly nice. By golly, there we go. So this is supposed to replace this. Question is, where does this hood attachment bolt go to? This has been spot welded to this, and this is all open here. What do I do with this? Maybe I'll bolt this up and maybe it'll reveal itself. Well, this is where the drive motor is going to bolt up to this bracket here. So this bolt for the hood, I might just leave it off. Like I say, I never did actually bolt it in place. Maybe it's intended just not to be there anymore. But the main steering wheel shaft is going to clip onto here, and then this front shaft that goes up to what they call the bolster, which is kind of interesting to me since I work with bolsters on wagons. This needs to be cut off and shortened so it can fit into this kind of a coupler attachment here. So I'm going to take this back off and see if I can get my measurement for the front steering shaft here. So when I took this front shaft and it lined up at this point where my yoke came from my steering wheel, so I measured back to the center of this play. When I put this shaft inside, I have 1 1/8 inches. It's going to come in 1 1/8 inches, and I've marked this hole where that's going to get drilled. So when this is in that position, it's going to be right in the center of this 1/4 inch play. So I'm going to drill this, and that's where the roll pin will go. So I drilled a 5/16 hole, and I want to make sure that my roll pin is going to fit in that. Good and snug, I think that'll work. This old coupler has been used before, and my roll pin is pretty loose in that. As long as we're tight in my shaft, we should be okay. So I'm mounted back up on this drive motor, some call it an orbit motor. My front shaft to my steering wheel is hooked back up. I'm going to make sure, just a quick double check, that this is all going to line up. And we seem to be good right there. I've got some movement in this collar. I think that'll work. I want to grease that worm gear on the other end first. Brought some wheel bearing grease out. I think that ought to be a good grease for this. This is a ball bearing here. I'd like to try to repack that a bit. I'll get this re-greased. That's got to help, I would think. I'm going to fill this socket up so when the rod goes in there, it should push that grease up into that slip joint. Might have overdone it, but that's okay. Yes, this 3/8 goes inside that 5/16. Well, the last thing for this system is high pressure and low pressure hydraulic lines. This is the high pressure line, and low pressure goes here. This high pressure line kind of tends to want to go over and touch that exhaust pipe there. I think I'm going to go maybe zip tie it off to this clip here that holds some wiring. I keep it away from that exhaust. I guess you can go HEF or hydraulic fluid. I've got some hydraulic fluid. I guess you can run these off of live power, which I have. Whoops. Well, I had a bit of a wreck for a minute. I had oil going everywhere. There's two oil seals or O-rings. One is underneath this post here, and then there's another one that feeds the pump itself. There was a new O-ring under this, but there was not an O-ring under the feed to the pump. So I just had oil running everywhere, but I changed that out and now it seems to be holding oil. So I don't know exactly how full to fill this. It doesn't say, or I haven't read, but I think I'll see if it works there, and I'll probably have to add some more. Well, I got my gauges hooked back up. I have my throttle linkage back up again. I did just slide the muffler on, so when I start this up, it's not just earth-shattering noisy. Kind of nervous to fire this up. It's been setting a while and I don't see any leaks off of my pump, so that's encouraging. So I think everything's in place. Never know till you fire it up. I did go back and look some more online, and that center bolt that I was talking about earlier for the hood seems to be left off by everybody, so I guess that's pretty normal. See what it does. That's amazing. All I can say is, wow, this has been a beast to steer for the 30 years I've had this. Wow, that's pretty impressive. Well, I did get my front grille painted, so I'll stick that back on. Have to decide what I'm going to do with that hood. I should probably paint that too. This is going to make the rest of the tractor look pretty cruddy. Well, there's my new painted front grille. Kind of like mascara on a sow, isn't it? And as I've been working with this, I've noticed I have a couple hydraulic hoses that I need to change out. Just noticing some of the leaks, ongoing maintenance. But this power steering is pretty cool. So I think I'll figure out how to paint the hood, and I've had this gas tank off before and had it spray lined, you know, these old rusty tanks. So I might even take that off. The rest of it, I think I'm going to take a power washer to it and just kind of clean it up for right now. We'll see how it goes. But this is pretty cool. Appreciate you coming along. Thanks for watching.